So today we're back inside, and I have a question for my followers, the ones who are in Kenya or familiar with land in Kenya or farming in Kenya. I need your help, right? So, if you've been following my page thus far, you will know that I posted quite a few business ideas that I would possibly approach in Kenya, right? But if you've been here long enough, you'll know that one of the first videos I posted was my ideal lazy business in Kenya. And for those who haven't watched it, my ideal lazy business would be to go into tree farming, right? And the only way I would approach such a business is if I had a large parcel of land, preferably like 50 to like 100 acres, right? And the reason I would want a large piece of land is because trees take a long time to mature. And the way I would approach such a business would be, let's say I have 100 acres. Let's say I'm planting a tree that matures after 10 years and I can cut it down and sell it. I would divide my 100 by 10, meaning I would have 10 different parcels of 10 acres each, right? The reason I would do that is so that year one I can plant, year two I can plant up until year 10, right? By the by the 10th year where I'm planting, parcel number one will be ready for harvest. And the reason I would approach it this way is so every year I have something I can harvest and something I'm planting just to, keep it like a cycle. I don't want to just plant 100 acres, sit back for 10 years and do nothing. No, I would divide it up and then approach it that way. Now, here's the question for the video. Is buying land in Kitui a smart investment for large scale farming? I'm gonna add that part for large scale farming. And the reason I'm attracted to Kitui is for many, many different reasons, right? If you look at land in Kenya, land is expensive for the most part. And especially depending on where you're buying, it'll get extremely expensive, okay? Now, for such a business like tree farming, somebody may already jump in the comments and be like, that's dumb. Don't go farm trees in Kitui. It's dry land, A, B, C, D. And I'll say, hold on, just hold your horses. Just hear me out, right? If I'm doing like small scale farming, like 3, 4, 5 acres, I would obviously look for highly desirable land, as in land in highland areas or areas that have very fertile soil and areas that have a lot of rain. That way, I'm not spending an additional big chunk of money on irrigation and all these different things and what's it called, supplements for my plants and nutrients, all that stuff, right? But if I'm going on the large scale approach, right, meaning I want to get at least 50 to like 100 acres, right? That means I have to move away from those areas because that number adds up pretty fast. If I'm in an area where land is like 3 million an acre and I'm trying to get 50 acres, that's what, 3 times 50. 150 million Kenyan shillings, that's over like $1 million, 1.1, $1.2 million. I don't have that type of money, right? But, but there's places in Kenya. The more rural you go, it will be less and less developed, making land less and less expensive. So, Kitui has always attracted my eye for that reason. Kitui is a pretty large county. I'm not talking about Kitui town specifically. Kitui County, it's pretty large, right? And I'm going to actually put that on the screen for those who don't know what Kitui is. That right there. Now, Kitui attracts me because when you look at the soil, there's quite a bit of red soil in Kitui, and red soil is good for growing agriculture. Obviously, there's like dark black soil, which is like a lot better depending on where you go. But we're gonna work with what we got. So let's say I was to find a good parcel of land in Kitui. One, land there is very, very cheap. Like when I look online, I see from the people who are selling like large tracts And I'm talking about people who are selling like, oh, I have 1,500 acres for sale, 10,000 acres for sale, 5,000 acres for sale. Usually, when you look at the per acre cost, a lot of those are falling into like 40,000 shillings to like 60 to 70,000 shillings, which is like 300 to like $500 per acre. Crazy, right? Some people would hear that and be like, "Of course, go for that." But then, this comes with a lot of caveats. When you're finding land that cheap, it's usually very, very far. When I look at these listings, right, a lot of them will obviously mention how far away you are from the tarmac. That's a that's something that a lot of Kenyans like to know because tarmac doesn't reach every single edge of the country. It's not like America where our roads are paved even right up to your farm, right? So the reason that's important is because a lot of these places will be like 20 kilometers away from the tarmac, 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers away from the tarmac, right? And if you've ever driven on a dirt road, you will know that when it rains and it pours, it becomes impossible to reach your property. And especially when you're approaching business in the sense of like, let's say I have a lot of goods that are ready for harvest and I need to get them out of my farm and onto somewhere. That trek of of 40 kilometers, 20 kilometers from your dirt road to the actual tarmac with a big heavy truck carrying a lot of goods, that can almost become impossible. It can almost become unfeasible to get your products out of where your farm is onto a tarmac road to finally reach its markets, right? So that's the first caveat that comes with land in Kitui. A lot of it is cheap, 40,000 shillings, like 300 to $500, but a lot of it is very rural. Along with that rural part comes infrastructure, meaning electricity may not reach where your parcel is. It may be a kilometer away. Like the closest pole for electricity, maybe like a kilometer, 2 kilometers away, maybe even 5, 10 kilometers. And what that means is that if you want to run electricity directly to your property, that means you're spending quite a bit of money for each electric post that you have to extend out to your property. And even when you spend that money, it doesn't guarantee that's going to be reliable electricity because you're so far out rural. You might have something. Let's say something happens to one of the transformers a mile away from your area. It may take the Kenyan Power Company a week to come and fix your transformer, right? Their priorities might be the more urban areas. Their priorities may be somewhere that's not as in the middle of nowhere like you are, right? Also, Kitui is a very, very dry place. It's a very dry place, but at the same time, when you look at Kitui during its rain season and when it rains, it's a very green place. It has red soil. There's trees that grow in Kitui, indigenous trees that grow pretty big, not too tall, right? I'm not sitting here gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you guys like Kitui has 100-foot tall trees. No, but the soil is actually able to be used for agriculture. So, with all these stipulations, that would mean, let's say I did find 100 acres out there at 40,000 shillings per acre, which is actually like a feasible number that I'm seeing online. A lot of different listings and stuff. Some are 50,000, 60,000. But if I was to buy that land at 40,000 an acre, 100 acres, that means I'm out of my pocket 4 million Kenyan shillings. 4 million Kenyan shillings is literally the cost of a single acre somewhere else, some other, what's it called, in some other farming town. But because you're so far in the middle of nowhere, that 4 million can get you 100 acres out there, depending on who you buy from, right? But the stipulations that comes with this cheap land is one, it would be hard to reach your land. Two, you probably won't have a lot of utilities, running water and all this. You have to drill a bore well. You have to buy what's it called, solar panels for you to sustain your own electricity out there. To also for you to reach a gas station and get gas, you'll probably have to have tanks on your land that you just, what's it called, slowly fill up, because you're not going to get a big tanker to reach your parcel probably. It's probably going to be too hard and too heavy for those trucks to reach your land. So, all this stuff you have to do on your own. Also, it's very dry, which means you're digging boreholes. You're going to have to dig down, dig a good well, and everything. But here's the crazy part. When I look on Google Maps, there's a lot of expansion happening in Kitui. But the scary thing for me is, matter of fact, I have some of these pictures in front of me. Let me pull up this, right? So I already showed you guys the where Kitui lies, right? Next thing I wanted to show you is that Kitui borders some national reserves, right? I'll put that next picture up. And what you guys will see in that picture is that there's a clear demarcation from the reserve land, and you can see all the small farms, all the what's it called, lighter parts. Those are small people, not small people. Those are small farm clearings of people clearing land to do their own little farming or shenanigans, and you can see it expanding closer and closer to the national reserve boundary. But if you look at somewhere further up, because that first picture I showed you guys is close to a river, right? If you look on that first picture, it's close to a river. Now, when you move away from the river, which usually attracts populations, it gets less and less dense, less thick, less populated, right? And I'm gonna show you the next picture. So, that picture is the more rural part of Kitui closer to the reserve. You'll see that a lot of the farms have been spread out. It's little light dots here and there, and those light dots are clearings of land, right? Now, one thing that scares me about this expansion that I'm seeing is that, one, those parcels are irregular shaped, okay? Also, those parcels that you're seeing right now, they're irregular shaped and they're very rural. Along with that, I already mentioned dirt roads, and it's highly undeveloped, right? The reason the irregular shape scares me is because I question if these are legally titled parcels of land. I question if all these farms that you're seeing expanding, these little dots that you're seeing open up, I question if there's any organization around that, okay? And the reason I say, what's it called, is there any organization, is because with those odd shapes, you'll see somebody like some oval type of, what's it called, some oval parcel of land. Matter of fact, I'll put up a picture. You'll see people with odd shaped parcels of land. You'll see that the roads aren't straight. You'll see that the way one property borders another property doesn't make sense, right? Because in most of Kenya, land is demarcated with straight lines, or at least pretty straight lines, pretty things that you can actually like understand. But here it looks like somebody's just going in the middle of the forest, cutting out their own parcel with no title deed and saying, I claim this, this is mine. I question how much of those expansions is that happening. In addition to that, what's it called, are these places titled? In addition to that, this is very, very rural, which means security is a concern. But at the same time, you're seeing enough of a spread telling you that there's enough people staying out there, okay? But the reason I say security is a concern is because imagine Jimmy in the middle of nowhere. Imagine his neighbors know, oh, this Kenyan American kid lives out here in the middle of nowhere. That makes you a target. That makes you a target. If they know you got money, or they know that, what's it called? you're not as familiar with the area, you're not as familiar with how things operate, people could see that as a lone duck in the middle of nowhere and target you to rob you or steal from your farm or destroy your crops, steal your crops, whatever, steal your farm equipment and everything. So that's one thing I'm always thinking about. Like, the more rural you go, the more you have to worry about security and securing your land, securing yourself. Realistically, I'd get a gun if I could. That's my American mindset. If I'm out in the middle of nowhere, yeah, get me a gun because you F around with me, you're going to find out very fast. But overall, I am very attracted to Kitui for the simple fact of if 4 million, let's even call it 5 million shillings, let's say each parcel is going for 50,000 an acre, right? And I'm Jimmy's over here trying to pick up, what's it called, 100 acres. Man, that, like, it's crazy to think that you could get that much land. But at the same time, you have to understand what costs go into that. Like, you get the cheap land, but if you don't reach water level, if you don't have a borehole that can go deep enough to supply all that land, then it's almost like useless. In addition to that, with everybody expanding in that area, like I showed in those pictures, there's a lot of different little patches being taken out from the brush and everything. A lot of that is trees and brush. It's not like thick, thick forest. But with the expansion, I question, is everybody here digging their own boreholes as well? Is everyone here tapping into the same reservoir? Does that mean that there's going to be a competition for water because you're already in a dry place, right? You already have to worry about electricity. You're buying solar, you're buying so many things. You're buying piping to irrigate your land and all that. Overall, all these questions come into mind. And I ask myself, I'm like, is it a smart investment? Is it a bad investment? Realistically, I think that it's a good investment. But with the expansion that's happening, I question how sustainable the water level in such areas will be in the future if everybody out there has a 10-acre parcel, if everyone out there has a 20-acre parcel, or you see random 400-acre parcels of people farming and everyone's tapping into the same water. I question how long term sustainable that would be. Overall, you guys let me know in the comment section. Do you think that such an investment would be smart? Because the way I look at it, like, I could spend 2 million and 3 million shillings per acre in somewhere that's very, very fertile and everything, and not have to worry about irrigation and not have to worry about all these different issues that come up with a place like Kitui. But at the same time, spending all those high prices means you're getting a lot less land, meaning you can produce a lot less. The the catchy part of Kitui is how big of an operation you can have, but that comes at the cost of all the infrastructure you will have to put in yourself. Basically, one place, God gives you infrastructure, God gives you rain, God gives you good soil and everything. In another place, God gives you just a lot of land, but you have to be the caretaker of the earth in the sense that God left us here, right? You have to be that caretaker and ensure that your land is irrigated, your land is protected, your land is cleared and not all this stuff. Also, I'm in the middle of nowhere. If like a if like a giraffe comes and tries to eat Jimmy or like a elephant or I don't even know what wild animals are out there. But overall, you guys let me know. Would that actually be a smart approach to farming and large scale farming? For the simple fact that you can see from maps, people are already doing that out there. But it comes at the cost of all the infrastructure you have to put in. That's the end of this video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you think it would be smart, not smart? Or if you're going to go into farming, just focus on what's it called, highly rich soils and highly desired farming areas. That's the end of the video. I love y'all, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.